On Father's Day, my daughter Emily handed me a pair of socks that cost $20, smiling as though it were something priceless. That very same day, I noticed a $12,000 Rolex watch on her father-in-law's wrist, purchased with my own money, which she had described as an essential cost. Following that, she phoned me 19 times, pleading, "Dad, please don't do this." But by then, it was already too late. I had set out on a course with no space for second thoughts. Before we go further, please subscribe to the channel and share in the comments where you are tuning in from. Sunlight streamed through the living room windows, casting golden patterns across the faded sofa where I waited for Emily. My daughter had promised a surprise for Father's Day, and despite years of subtle letdowns, a spark of hope flickered within me. The antique clock on the mantel ticked steadily, each moment echoing the years I had devoted to her. 18 years since her mother's passing. Every compromise carved into my very being. The space carried a faint scent of citrus cleaner, a routine I maintained from my late wife. Though the family pictures on the shelf served as the true foundation here, Emily as a wide-smiled child, me grinning next to her at her high school ceremony, us side by side, always just us. The doorbell rang, and my spirits rose. I swung open the door to see Emily, her chestnut hair pulled into a neat ponytail, her upscale jacket too sharp for our quiet Boston neighborhood. She clutched a small gift sack, the wrapping paper wrinkled as if added hastily. Her husband, Ethan, stood behind her, his grin as refined as his dress shoes. "Happy Father's Day." "Dad," Emily said, her tone warm but laced with a subtle edge, like a knife concealed in velvet. She pushed the sack into my grasp, her expression strained, as if captured in an unwanted snapshot. I managed to smile, my fingertips grazing the coarse paper. "Thanks, honey." The sack seemed weightless, almost empty. I returned to the sofa, sensing their stares, Emily's eager, Ethan's mildly entertained. The clock's ticking grew louder, or perhaps it was my heartbeat. I drew out a pair of dark blue socks, the sort you might grab from a bargain rack for $20. The label still hung there, swinging like a mockery. My chest constricted, but I held my composure steady. "Socks," I remarked, lifting them up. "Practical. I've always wanted these." Emily's laughter came out sharp and fragile. "Precisely. Something handy. Right. Not like you require anything lavish." Her polished fingernails shone as she fixed her necklace. The motion was relaxed, yet intentional, highlighting the divide between us. Ethan laughed softly, propping himself against the doorway. "Yeah, John, you're a straightforward man, no call for luxury." His words oozed superiority, and I sensed the room closing in, the atmosphere thick with their mutual arrogance. I nodded, creasing the socks with a care I did not truly feel. "I value it from both of you." My words remained even, but my hands shook faintly, revealing the turmoil within. I looked at the picture of my late wife, Sarah, her gentle gaze observing from the frame. Had I let her down, nurturing a daughter who viewed me as a duty? The idea burned, but I suppressed it. "Are you sticking around for some tea?" I inquired, already anticipating the response. "Oh, we have commitments," Emily replied, glancing at her device. "Supper with Robert, Ethan's father. You know how he loves entertaining." She shared a brief look with Ethan, a hint of something elusive. Concealment, perhaps, or victory. My gut twisted, but I dismissed it. They departed swiftly, leaving the home more silent than prior. The clock's ticking now pounded like a mallet against my head. I took the socks to the kitchen, craving movement, Anything to occupy me. The gift sack caught on the countertop corner, the paper ripping like a fragile vow. I placed the socks aside and grabbed a cup, my grip unsteady. Then the recollection struck. Emily's university fees, $50,000 annually, covered by relinquishing my vision of a cabin. A quiet retirement in the woods. I convinced myself it was worthwhile, that she would uphold our family's affection onward. The cup fell from my hold, breaking on the linoleum surface. I gazed at the fragments, sharp and beyond repair, my breathing uneven. Had it all been pointless? I cleaned up the pieces, each sweep of the brush intensifying the pain in my core. Emily's words resounded in my thoughts. Something handy, right? And I pondered when she had ceased regarding me as her father and begun seeing me as a tool for her goals. The kitchen now held the aroma of tea, tart and stabilizing. I settled at the table, the socks taunting me from the counter. My computer was active, a pattern from decades of reviewing job messages. But today I navigated to social platforms, seeking a diversion. That is when I spotted it, an image shared an hour earlier by Emily, Robert, Ethan's father, beaming at a dining table, his arm decorated with a shining Rolex, the type that shouted affluence. Her description stated, "To the finest father-in-law, a present that suits your elegance." My veins turned icy. I tapped the picture, enlarging it. The watch's dial sparkled beneath the eatery's illumination. Unmistakable. I recalled her contact 3 months back, her tone quivering. "Dad, I require $12,000. It's crucial for health matters." I had transferred the funds that afternoon, without inquiry. My hands quivered as I fixed on the display. The socks remained overlooked. The clock persisted, and something within me fractured, not dramatically, but softly, like a bolt securing firmly. Emily had contacted me 19 times later that afternoon, her tone desperate. "Dad, don't do this." But she was unaware I was already committed to a direction without remorse. The kitchen grew shadowy now, the midday glow stifled by approaching clouds. The shattered cup remnants rested in the bin, but the acrid flavor of disloyalty persisted. Keener than the tea cooling in my vessel, the computer screen illuminated, Robert's Rolex searing into my vision. I enlarged it once more, as if the dots could disclose some error, some justification. Emily's description ridiculed me. "A present that suits your elegance." My digits lingered over the keys, shaking with an anger I had not experienced in ages. $12,000. My funds, labeled as a critical outlay, now sparkling on her father-in-law's arm while I clutched $20 socks. I closed the computer forcefully, the noise piercing against the kitchen hush. The clock in the living room continued, unyielding, each tick a cue of the decades I had offered her. Every overtime hour, every aspiration postponed. I rose, my seat grating the floor, and seized my coat. I craved fresh air, room to reflect, anything to blunt the fury tearing at my core. The socks remained on the counter, their tag a mute indictment. Outside, the Boston neighborhood appeared overly ideal. Trimmed yards, flowering roses, a veneer of peace that concealed the decay underneath. The heavens were dense, forecasting rain, and the breeze carried the odor of moist turf. I strolled toward this park, my pace swift, as if I could escape the vision of that watch. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Emily once more. Her 19th contact that day. I disregarded it. The buzz against my leg a dim reflection of my rhythm. "Dad, don't do this," she had implored before. But what did she assume I would do? Absolve her? Act as if I had not witnessed? The park was serene, the play structures swaying gently in the wind. I paused by the aged wooden seat where I once propelled Emily on the swings, her giggles filling the atmosphere. A recollection emerged, uninvited. Her at 7, braids dancing, vowing she would forever be my little one. I had trusted her then, believed in the connection we forged after Sarah's departure. Now that vow seemed false, as empty as the gift sack she had presented. I sat, the seat groaning beneath me, and stared at the vacant swing. The Rolex flickered in my thoughts, a jeer I could not dispel. "John, is that you?" A voice interrupted my reverie. It was Mike, my neighbor, running past with his retriever. His plump face was rosy, amicable as ever. I forced a grin, rising to greet him. "Didn't think I'd run into you here," he remarked, leashing his dog. "Figured you'd be rejoicing with Emily." "The celebration's over," I responded, my tone more level than intended. Mike cocked his head, inquisitive, but I dismissed it. "Just craved a stroll," he agreed, petting his dog's head. "Spotted your girl in town last month. You know, at that upscale jewelry shop on Elm Avenue. Seemed like she was selecting something grand." He chuckled, unaware of the revelation he had unleashed. "Guess she has pricey preferences, huh?" My throat constricted. "Yeah," I uttered. "She does." The park whirled faintly, the swing links fading, Elm Avenue, the jewelry shop, the Rolex. Mike continued chatting. Something about the forecast, but I scarcely registered. My thoughts surged, assembling the puzzle. Emily, not at a physician's clinic, but in a sparkling boutique, expending my funds on a watch for Robert. The disloyalty sank further, a dagger rotating in my abdomen. "Got to head home before the downpour," Mike stated, trotting away with a gesture. I remained immobile, the initial raindrops dotting my coat. The park seemed diminished, the swing a remnant of an existence that no longer was. I returned, my strides heavier now, the resentment solidifying into something chillier, more directed. Emily had deceived, and Ethan had sneered, and I had been the dupe who relied on them. Back in the kitchen. The socks were unchanged, a pitiful opposition to the Rolex's shine. I reopened my computer, the image still visible. My hands were firm now, the quivering absent. I entered Elm Avenue jewelry shop into the search field, my mouth set. The clock ticked, but it was not merely time vanishing. It was the mirage of my daughter. I selected the shop's site, a strategy taking shape, keen and inflexible. I required confirmation if that watch was authentic, if her disloyalty was as bold as it appeared. The rain pattered the pane, constant as a pulse, and I realized there was no retreat. The rain beat on my windshield as I entered the parking area near Elm Avenue, the blade's rhythmic motion the sole noise in the vehicle. My grip on the wheel was tight, knuckles blanched. A printed copy of Robert's Rolex image folded in my coat pocket. The prior day's astonishment had congealed overnight into a frigid, persistent urge to uncover. The Boston skyline towered through the mist, its metal and panes apathetic to the tempest raging inside me. I exited, the atmosphere crisp with the smell of damp asphalt and costly fragrance drifting from the stores. The jewelry shop's emblem shone ahead, a signal of revelation or ruin. Inside, the establishment was a realm distant from my humble residence. Gleaming stone floors, light fixtures scattering rainbows on crystal displays, the environment laden with opulence. A youthful attendant in a fitted outfit neared, her grin rehearsed. "Welcome, sir. Seeking something unique." Her words were silky, but I detected the swift appraisal of my creased coat, my worn boots. I did not fit here, and she recognized it. Neither had Emily, yet she had traversed these surfaces, spending my resources. "I need details," I stated. Retrieving the printout, my tone was stable, though my heart thumped. "This watch, was it acquired here?" I unfolded the sheet, the Rolex's depiction stark against the blank backdrop. The attendant's gaze sparked with familiarity, and my stomach churned. She paused, looking toward an older gentleman at the rear, balding, evidently the supervisor. "Allow me to consult our specialist," she replied, accepting the printout and vanishing behind a plush drape. I waited. The shop's quiet, bearing down on me, interrupted only by the soft click of a showcase timepiece. That noise again. Time perpetually escaping, perpetually scoffing. I considered Emily's call the previous evening, her tone piercing through the message. "Dad, please just speak with me." I had not responded. Not yet. The supervisor appeared, clutching the printout. "I'm Mr. Harlan," he announced, his manner expert but wary. "This is a Rolex Explorer. Yes, we vended one similar in April." He returned the paper, his gaze assessing me. "May I inquire why you are asking?" My throat squeezed, but I maintained eye contact. "It was a present. I must verify it was bought here. And who purchased it?" I pushed my credit statement across the surface. The $12,000 deduction highlighted in crimson. My hand did not waver, though inwardly I was fraying. "This is my record. Was it employed for the buy?" Harlan's features eased, a trace of comprehension. He keyed into a device, then affirmed. "The deal aligns, settled completely. April 20th. A young lady executed the purchase, with a gentleman alongside. She mentioned it was for a relative." His statements struck like blows, each affirming what I feared. "Emily, Ethan, my resources, was the watch genuine?" I questioned, my voice hushed, nearly a snarl. Harlan arched a brow, but he responded, "Certainly. We handle no imitations. That item was $12,500 including tax." He halted, detecting my strain. "Is there an issue, sir?" I compelled a rigid grin. "No issue, just had to confirm." I collected the printout and statement, folding them meticulously, as if they were proof in a hearing. The shop's illumination seemed overly intense now, the air overly dense. I expressed gratitude to Harlan and re-entered the rain, my footwear splashing in shallow pools. The facts were mine, and they were graver than I had envisioned. In my vehicle, I lingered. The printout crushed in my grasp. The rain obscured the glass, and I envisioned Emily's countenance in my mind, not the adult who had falsified, but the child who had wept when I tended her bruised knee. A recollection arose 3 months prior, her tone gentle, urgent. "It's for Dr. Bills. Dad, I wouldn't request if it weren't grave." I had trusted her, sent the funds, felt like a responsible parent. Now I felt like an idiot. I checked my image in the rear mirror. Silver hair, weary eyes, but a firmness I had not observed before. The figure gazing back was not the John who had accepted socks with a beam. He was someone fresh, someone finished with being manipulated. My phone rested on the adjacent seat, Emily's unanswered calls accumulating. 19 yesterday, 4 more today. She realized I had viewed the image. She realized I was probing. My fingers paused over her name. The display shining in the subdued car. The rain hammered fiercer. A percussion for the clash ahead. I initiated the call, my mouth firm, and awaited as it sounded. Whatever she uttered next, it would not alter the reality. The clock in my thoughts clicked louder, tallying toward something unavoidable. The rain pounded the top of my vehicle, a ceaseless rhythm that synced with the throb in my temples. I remained stationed outside my residence, the Boston neighborhood shrouded in evening's dimness, my phone aglow in my palm like a tool. The printed image of Robert's Rolex lay wrinkled on the passenger spot, its borders curling like a culpable mystery. My thumb lingered over Emily's name, her unanswered calls. 22 now, piling like reproaches. The revelations I had exposed in the jewelry shop smoldered in my chest. $12,000. My funds expended on a watch for her father-in-law while I received socks. I activated the call, my mouth taut, the rain smearing the world beyond. The connection engaged, and Emily's voice erupted, keen and restless. "Dad, at last. Why haven't you picked up?" Her manner blended solace and annoyance, as if I were the one indebted to her. I clutched the wheel, the material slick beneath my hand, and inhaled deeply. "I've been occupied," I replied, my tone subdued, purposeful. "Had to investigate something. Like a $12,000 Rolex." The phrases dropped like rocks, and for an instant, there was quiet. Just the rain's constant din. I could nearly picture her striding her immaculate den, her groomed nails clicking her device. "What are you referring to?" she retorted. But there was a quiver in her voice, a fissure in her shield. "You're being absurd." "Am I?" I bent forward, my gaze on the glass where rain trailed like tears I declined to release. "I visited the shop, Emily, Elm Avenue. They verified it. You utilized my card for Robert." My words stayed balanced, but each bore the burden of treachery. The clock in my thoughts ticked, unremitting, measuring the moments of her delay. She chuckled, a brittle, compelled noise. "Goodness, you always escalate trivia. It was a present. Fine. Robert has done plenty for us. You wouldn't comprehend." Her superiority stung, but it was the alarm beneath that seized my notice. She was floundering. "A present," I echoed, my tone dull. "With my funds, you claimed it was for Dr. Bill's. Essential, you said." My unoccupied hand balled into a fist, nails pressing my skin. "What else have you concealed?" "This isn't your concern," she fired back, her voice escalating, piercing. "You don't dictate my actions anymore. I'm not a child, Dad." The term "dad" was a derision, hurled like a projectile. I recalled her at 15, imploring for a high-end gown, assuring she would honor me. I had believed her then, not now. "Then behave like a grown-up," I declared, my voice icy. "Clarify it." Now the rain strengthened, a barrier enclosing me in this instant, this settlement. Emily's respiration was audible, rapid and irregular, and I knew she was trapped. "You're so trivial," she snapped. "I don't have time for this." The connection severed, the hush louder than the gale. I stared at the phone, her phrases resounding. "Trivial. Absurd. Not your concern." My chest hurt, but it was not solely agony anymore. It was determination, solid and inflexible. I emerged from the vehicle, the rain drenching my coat, my locks. The chill jarred my flesh, but it sharpened my mind. I accessed my phone's memo application, my digits damp, and recorded her phrases, each a component in the argument I was constructing. Not your concern. Trivial. The road was vacant, the home's radiating coziness I no longer sensed. Emily believed she could brush me aside, but she had erred. I was not the easy mark she presumed. I rested against the vehicle, the rain gathering at my feet, and recollected Sarah's voice. Tender, but resolute. Don't allow anyone to trample you. John. I had neglected that pledge for too long. But no longer. My phone hummed, a message from an unfamiliar number. Mr. Harrison, I'm Laura Bennett, lawyer. Heard you might require assistance. Meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m. 300 Pine Street. I fixed on the note, the rain smudging the display. A lawyer, an outsider, extending a support. My thumb paused over reply, the clock in my thoughts ticking toward something novel. The morning light cut through the shades of Laura Bennett's workspace, painting lines across a desk laden with documents and beverage containers. The atmosphere held stale coffee and ancient volumes, a disordered counterpoint to the polished Boston skyscraper beyond. I sat facing Laura, my financial record laid out before me like a chart of my missteps. The impact of the prior night's discussion with Emily endured. Her malice. You're so trivial. Still pricking, but here in this messy space, I sensed a glimmer of something fresh, opportunity. The wall clock ticked, its pointers gradual but constant, a cue that time was not finished with me yet. Laura reclined in her seat, her charcoal jacket mildly creased, her gaze keen despite the smile creases bordering them. So, she remarked, rapping a writing tool against her surface. Your daughter's developed a fondness for Rolexes and a knack for deception. Does that capture it? Her words were straightforward, tinged with a wry wit that surprised me, I affirmed, achieving a stiff grin. Essentially, I said, my fingertips skimming the border of the record. The $12,000 entry glared upward, a scar in dark print. She employed my card, falsified about it, and those socks. I drifted off, the recollection of Emily's complacent beam twisting my insides. Laura huffed. Socks for Father's Day. Children have audacity. She bent forward, examining the papers. But audacity doesn't cover watches. Let's discuss alternatives. You aim to safeguard what's yours. Correct. Her query was direct, but her manner contained a warmth that made me rely on her, or at least desire to. I adjusted in my chair, the furniture squeaking. I do, but I'm unsure where to begin. She's my daughter. The phrases felt burdensome, an admission of my frailty. I had invested 18 years crafting an existence for Emily. After Sarah passed, every selection was for her. No excursions to the mountains, no pastimes. Just her education, her marriage, her tomorrow. And now this. Laura's look gentled, but her tone remained solid. You're not the initial guardian she's scorched, John, and won't be the final unless you proceed. She pushed her agreement toward me. I can aid. Begin with locking her entry to your finances. Then we explore. Discover what else she's been involved in. Her assurance was contagious. A rescue I had not foreseen. I grasped the agreement. The sheet cool against my digits. A recollection emerged. Emily's marriage. Her glowing beam as I delivered the payment for the location. My fantasy of a coastal getaway diminishing with it. I assured myself it was valuable, that she would bear our family's devotion. Now I perceived only her grasp on my card, her deceptions accumulating. I endorsed the agreement, my tool firm, a silent oath to myself. Laura affirmed, organizing the sheets. Excellent. We'll commence with your financial institution. I'll require specifics. Every exchange she's influenced. She stopped, her gaze encountering mine. You certain about this? It's not merely funds, it's kin. I rose, approaching the pane. Boston extended below, its beat unceasing. I've provided her all. I uttered, my tone subdued. Time to reclaim something. The phrases felt alien, but correct. The clock behind me ticked, its cadence a summons to deed, not remorse. We discussed particulars, profiles, schedules, lawful measures. Laura's wit eased the strain. Her remark about instructing Emily the worth of $1 eliciting a genuine chuckle from me. I departed her workspace lighter, the sun warm on my countenance as I emerged onto Pine Street. For the first occasion in days, I felt as though I was advancing, not merely responding. In my vehicle, I inspected my phone, routine more than necessity. A financial notice appeared. A fresh exchange. $3,000. Tried on my card. Emily's name linked to it. Another audacious snatch. My mouth tightened, but I was not astonished. The clock in my thoughts ticked louder, pressing me onward. Whatever she was acquiring, she would soon discover that my benevolence had boundaries. The financial institution's stone surface shone under bright lamps, its coolness permeating through my footwear as I positioned at the desk. The environment buzzed with the subdued hum of a cooler, sharp against the warmth of the June midday outside. In my grasp, a document to restrict Emily's entry to my credit. Its outlines stark and conclusive. My tool lingered. The burden of 18 years, her joy, her sorrow. My concessions bearing against the choice, but the Rolex's sparkle. Her sneering, "You're so trivial," overwhelmed it all. I endorsed. The mark of ink, a minor rebellious gesture. The clock in my thoughts ticked constant, urging me ahead. The overseer, a slender fellow with thin-framed lenses, examined the document. "This will activate instantly," he declared, his tone brief, expert. "The card's additional user, Emily Harrison, will be informed." He glanced at me, as if awaiting reluctance. I affirmed, my expression neutral, but my pulse hastening. Notification? She would learn soon enough. "Appreciate it," I said. Returning the document, my hands were stable, but inwardly, triumph contended with a subtle pain. Restricting her card was not solely about resources. It was about recovering the respect she had crushed. I exited the institution, the transparent entrances whispering closed behind me, and stepped into the Boston area's brilliance, the light reflecting off stationed vehicles. I drove to an adjacent eatery to encounter Laura, the venue lively with midday conversation. The aroma of fresh brew anchored me as I slid into a compartment opposite her. She was already present, her device active, a partially consumed pastry on a dish. "Well," she inquired, lifting a brow, "did you sever the connection?" "Signed and completed," I replied, a slight grin pulling at my mouth. "She's disconnected." The phrases felt solid, firm, like an entrance bolting. Laura beamed, reclining. "Bet she'll adore that more than those socks you received." Her wit was acute, but her gaze held a silent admiration. "Your daughter's about to grasp what a useful present truly signifies." She tapped her device. "I'm retrieving logs. Might uncover more of her purchasing binges. You prepared for what we reveal," I affirmed, sipping my brew, its tartness matching my disposition. "I need to understand everything." A recollection glimmered. Emily's marriage, her palm on my limb as I granted her entry to my card, stating it would assist her commence strongly. I had relied on her, thought it was affection. Now I saw only her avarice. The eatery's timepiece dangled on the partition, its pointers halted at 11:50, a mute observer to my transformation. Time was not fleeing anymore. I was halting it, assuming command. Laura detailed subsequent measures, monitoring Emily's expenditures, constructing an argument. Her assurance stabilized me. our partnership a link from the individual I had been to the one I was evolving. "You're doing this for yourself." "John," she uttered, her tone gentler now. "Not just to penalize her. Recall that." I encountered her gaze, perceiving not merely a lawyer, but a companion. Someone who recognized my value when I had overlooked it. My phone hummed. Disrupting the instant, Emily's name flashed on the display, her call pressing. Irate, I permitted it to sound, the noise engulfed by the eatery's murmur. When it ceased, a message emerged, her voice pouring out as I activated it. "Dad, what on earth did you do? My card's rejected. Correct this immediately." Her rage was unprocessed, unstrained, a break in her refined exterior. I placed the phone aside, my brew container warm in my palms. Laura lifted a brow, but I merely grinned. Slender and determined, the clock in my thoughts ticked on, tallying down to her next action and mine. The den was subdued, the final traces of June twilight filtering through the drapes, projecting elongated shades across the worn carpet. I sat on the couch, the identical one where I had unwrapped Emily's socks days prior, the recollection now a sour mark. My phone rested on the low table, its display flashing with her name, 19 calls in the past hour, each a prod at my determination. The antique clock on the mantel, halted years before, gazed silently, its immobile pointers a reflection of my resolution to stop her schemes. Family snapshots aligned the ledge. Emily at 6, her braids leaping. At 17, her diploma hat angled. Those instances felt like another era, one where I was not the adversary. The phone buzzed anew, persistent. Her name throbbing like a caution, I let it sound, my digits tracing the rim of a photo holder. Sarah and Emily chuckling in a meadow. The oscillation halted, then recommenced. A message this time. I activated it, preparing myself. Emily's voice exploded, strident and uneven. "Dad, what the heck, my card's rejected. Fix this or I vow we're finished." Her phrases were a edge, cutting through the stillness. Finished, as if I were the one who had deceived, who had spent $12,000 on a Rolex for Robert while presenting me $20 socks. I rose, needing activity, and proceeded to the kitchen. The atmosphere held a faint citrus cleaner scent, a custom I preserved for Sarah. My hands quivered as I filled the pot, but my mind was firm, toughened by her treachery. Another call arrived, and this time I responded, my voice frosty. "Emily, cease calling." "Cease calling," she snapped, her manner a blend of incredulity and wrath. "You disconnected me, Dad. How am I expected to survive your being self-centered?" Her charge landed like a strike, but I did not recoil. Self-centered. After years of providing her education, her marriage, her deceptions self-centered, I uttered, my voice subdued, managed. "You used my funds for a watch for Robert. You falsified about Dr. Bill's. Explain that." The pot hissed, vapor curling like my resentment. Silence extended on her side, broken only by her keen inhalations. "It's not what you believe," she said eventually, her tone softer, controlling. "Robert's significant to us. You wouldn't grasp it. Just repair the card. Please." The please was deliberate, a youngster's appeal from an adult who had surpassed it. "No," I declared, the word definitive. "You made your selections. Live with them." I terminated the call, my heart throbbing, but my determination unbroken. The phone hummed again. Another message. "You'll rue this," she whispered. "Ethan won't permit this to pass." Ethan, her feeble spouse. always in her wake. Now a menace. What were they scheming? I placed the phone down. The space darkened now, and I touched the halted clock, its metal cool under my digits. A recollection surfaced. Emily, at 11, dashing to me after a dispute with peers, her tears saturating my garment. I had been her secure haven then. Now I was her hindrance. The pot whistled, shrill as her voice, and I poured tea, the vapor clouding my view of her snapshot. She was not that youngster anymore, and I was not the father who would pardon without end. My phone illuminated again. Not Emily this time, but a message from Laura. Police headquarters tomorrow, 8 a.m. Emily and Ethan submitted a grievance. I've got your support. My stomach plummeted. A grievance? The room felt confined, the shades deeper. The clock's silence ridiculed me, but I uprighted, my tea untouched. Whatever Emily was hurling at me, I would confront it. The conflict was just commencing. The police headquarters smelled of overbrewed coffee and print, its bright lamps humming like a captured bug. I sat in a tight chamber, the seat firm against my spine. A beige file open on the surface before me. Officer Ramirez, a sturdy fellow with a doubtful scowl, leafed through Emily's grievance, his gaze darting to me as if I were the offender. Laura sat adjacent, her jacket keen, her attendance a barrier. Outside, Boston's dawn was overcast, clouds hanging low, echoing the heaviness in my core. Emily and Ethan had retaliated, charging me with monetary mistreatment for severing their access to my resources. The boldness scorched, but Laura's constant gaze kept me rooted. Ramirez cleared his passage, his tone rough. Mr. Harrison, your daughter and son-in-law assert you've limited their access to household funds, causing them difficulty. Care to elucidate? His manner implied I was already culpable, and my hands gripped the tool I clutched, its synthetic borders biting my skin. Household funds, I uttered, my voice balanced but sharpened. It's my resources. They expended $12,000 of it on a watch for another. I blocked their access to halt the pilfering. The term pilfering lingered in the air. Weighty? Accurate? Ramirez lifted a brow. Jotting a memo? Laura bent forward, her voice clear, authoritative. Officer, my client has full entitlement to shield his holdings. His daughter, Emily, misrepresented costs, using his card for unapproved buys. We possess financial logs, proofs, and a jeweler's affirmation. She pushed a file across the surface. Her actions exact. This isn't mistreatment, it's protection. Ramirez perused the papers, his scowl intensifying. This indicates the buy was for a Rolex. You're saying she falsified about the intent. His doubt shifted, now directed at Emily's account, and I felt a flicker of optimism. Precisely, I declared, meeting his gaze. She told me it was for Dr. Bill's. It wasn't. A recollection flashed. Ethan at my residence years prior, assuring to care for Emily. His grin too smooth. Now he had co-endorsed this grievance, his name inscribed beside hers, a timid hiding behind her poison. Laura's palm brushed my limb, a discreet cue to remain composed. Officer, she proceeded, this grievance is vengeful. Mr. Harrison acted within his privileges. If anything, we're contemplating charges for deceit. Her tone was iron, and Ramirez reclined, re-evaluating. We'll assess this, he stated, sealing the file. But I'll need accounts from both sides. He rose, indicating the conclusion, and I felt the chamber expand, the pressure lessening slightly. In her vehicle, the air was warmer, the scent of hide and spearmint chews, a respite from the headquarters mustiness. Laura ignited the motor, her contemporary arm timepiece gleaming, a contrast to my old halted one, an emblem of the fresh path I was on. "They're frantic," she remarked, glancing at me. "Submitting a grievance. That's a feeble maneuver. We've got them cornered," I affirmed, staring out at the cloudy metropolis. "Ethan's name on that grievance. Didn't anticipate him to engage." My voice was quiet, but the treachery pricked. He had always been Emily's shadow, satisfied to let her plot. Now he was in the fray. "He's frightened," Laura uttered, a smirk tugging her lips. "They both are, but we're not concluded. Ever considered your testament? John might be time to revise some elements." Her phrases landed softly, but they carried substance, a germ of a scheme. I retrieved my booklet, its sheets already filled with Emily's deceptions, and noted testament. The tool felt heavy, each mark a step toward something conclusive. The metropolis blurred past, and I wondered how far Emily would proceed to maintain her hold on me. Laura's timepiece ticked faintly, a reminder that time was mine to recapture. The notary's workspace was a haven of tranquility amid Boston's midday rush, its air dense with the odor of vintage sheets and buffed timber. I sat at a sturdy maple table, a pile of papers before me, each leaf a stone in the barrier I was erecting against Emily's covetousness. Laura stood close, verifying provisions with a trained eye, her presence steadying me. The summer sun sifted through high panes, warming the chamber, but my hands were chill as I gripped the tool. Revising my testament, excluding Emily, was a blade to my heart, but also a key to my liberation. The clock in my thoughts ticked, no longer scoffing but propelling me onward. The notary, a mild-voiced lady with gray locks, adjusted her spectacles. "Mr. Harrison, this revised testament assigns your holdings to a fund with Miss Bennet as overseer. Is that accurate?" Her voice was tender, but the query bore the weight of irrevocability. I affirmed, my throat constricted. "That's correct," I said, my voice firm despite the pain. "No direct heirs." The phrases felt like a betrayal of the assurances I had made to Sarah, to Emily, ensuring her tomorrow, preserving our kin intact. But Emily had shattered that. Her $12,000 deception, a break I could not repair. Laura caught my eye, her grin small but motivating. "You're doing the correct thing. John, this severs their fantasies of your resources. Clean separation." Her tone was buoyant, but her phrases anchored me. "Plus, I'm an excellent overseer," she added, blinking, and I laughed, the strain easing momentarily. I endorsed the initial leaf. The tools scrape loud in the serene chamber. A recollection surfaced, composing my original testament after Sarah's departure. Emily, just 13. Her tomorrow my sole focus. I had stayed awake nights, planning to grant her all. Security, devotion, a heritage. Now I was erasing her name, each endorsement a disconnection. The notary imprinted the sheets, her movements accurate. And I felt a peculiar relief, like discarding a load I had borne too long. "All completed," the notary declared, slipping the papers into a file. "Duplicates will be registered by day's end." I thanked her, my voice remote, and followed Laura out into the summer breeze. The metropolis buzzed, lively, vibrant, and I sensed a trace of that vitality in myself. We strolled to a nearby meadow, the turf bright green, youngsters' giggles drifting from a play area. I sat on a seat, Laura beside me, her silence friendly. A bird ascended nearby, its wings slicing the sky, and I viewed it as an omen. Freedom, hard-earned but mine. "This alters everything," I uttered, my voice subdued. She's truly absent now, Laura affirmed, her eyes on the youths playing. Not absent, John, just not your load anymore. You're reclaiming your existence. Her words were soft, but they conveyed the strength I required. I thought of Emily's messages, her menaces, and felt no remorse, only determination. There's more we can accomplish, Laura remarked, her tone shifting, enigmatic. Robert, for example. I've got some notions, but we'll need to proceed cautiously. She did not expand, and I did not urge, trusting her senses. The Meadows bell tower rang midday, its tone clear, a reminder of time advancing forward, not backward. My phone hummed. Breaking the moment, Robert's name flashed on the display. A call, not a note. John, we need to converse, his voice stated through the message, gruff but pressing. Meet me at my workspace tomorrow, 10 a.m. I fixed on the phone. The bird's ascent now a far speck. What did Emily's father-in-law desire? The clock in my thoughts ticked louder, tallying down to responses I was not certain I was prepared for. The sunset colored the Boston skyline in shades of gold and pink, its radiance scarcely softening the cool sophistication of Robert's estate. I stepped through the solid maple entrances, the stone entryway shining under a light fixture's glow, each crystal projecting keen reflections like the truth I bore. Laura's memo, tucked in my pocket, had called me here. Robert knows. Be prepared. My heart pounded, not with dread, but with the burden of equity approaching. The atmosphere smelled of buffed timber and prosperity. A stark opposition to my modest dwelling. Yet I stood erect, my determination a guard. The clock in my thoughts ticked, constant, marking the instant Emily's deceptions would unravel. Robert awaited in the library, his wide build rigid behind a walnut desk. His features, typically severe but equitable, were marked with rage. His gaze dark as he clutched a silk container. Laura stood nearby, her jacket crisp, her look calm but vigilant. John, Robert uttered, his voice low, gravelly. I owe you an apology. He pushed the container across the desk, its contents recognizable. A Rolex, the one Emily had acquired with my $12,000. Now an emblem of her treachery. I did not contact it, my hands firm at my sides. You didn't know, I declared, my tone balanced, though my pulse raced. She deceived us both. The words were straightforward, but they bore years of concession. University fees, foregone aspirations, all for a daughter who exchanged my affection for a watch. Robert's mouth tightened, his digits quivering as he opened the container. The Rolex shone, its dial mocking under the library's lights. She told me it was her offering, he said, his voice breaking with revulsion. Said it was to express gratitude for my backing. I'd never have accepted it if I'd known it was yours. His candor sliced through the chamber's luxury. And for the first time, I saw not the influential entrepreneur, but a man betrayed like me. Laura advanced, her voice exact. Emily misrepresented the funds. Robert, we have financial records, her endorsement, the jeweler's account. She used John's money without approval. Her words were a blade, revealing the injury. She glanced at me, a silent prompt to remain strong. Robert closed the container sharply, the sound acute. She's been ingratiating herself into my enterprise. Too, he remarked, his gaze narrowing. Pushing for a position, hinting adventures. I thought it was drive. Now I see it's covetousness. His confession hung heavy, a hint to Emily's deeper plots, but he did not detail. And I did not press. Not yet. I met his gaze, my voice resolute. I don't want your sympathy, Robert. I want what's just. The words felt like a oath, not just to him, but to myself, to Sarah's memory. He affirmed, shoving the container toward me. Take it, he declared. It's yours, and I'll handle Emily. His tone pledged repercussions, and I trusted him. I raised the container, its weight anchoring me, a concrete fragment of my dignity restored. We departed the library, Laura's palm brushing my limb in quiet backing. Outside, the evening breeze was cool, the city's murmur distant. In my vehicle, I opened the container, the Rolex sparkling in the waning light. A recollection surfaced. Robert at a kin supper years prior, commending Emily's spirit, his pride now fractured. I sealed the container, my digits steady. This was not just a watch. It was evidence I was not the dupe Emily thought. My phone hummed, a missed call from Emily, followed by a note. We need to converse. The display glowed in the dim vehicle, her words an entreaty or a snare. I set the phone aside, the Rolex container heavy in my lap, and started the motor. The clock in my thoughts ticked on, tallying down to her next maneuver. The morning sun warmed the veranda of my Boston suburban dwelling, its beams catching the moisture on the lilies, their blooms quivering in the wind. I stood at the entrance, my hand on the handle, the creak of the planks underfoot a familiar solace. Emily's note from last night, "We need to converse," had lingered, but I had not expected her to appear, not like this. She stood on the veranda with Ethan, her chestnut hair unbound, her eyes rimmed red, her usual composure fraying like a tattered strand. Ethan hunched beside her, his gaze locked on the ground, his hands jammed in his pockets. The sight of them, deprived of their arrogance, stirred no compassion, only a quiet fortitude in me. The clock in my thoughts ticked, constant, marking the termination of their grasp. I opened the entrance wider but remained on the threshold, my arms folded. "What do you want?" My voice was serene, unyielding, a far cry from the father who once softened at her tears. The veranda smelled of fresh soil, the blossoms a reminder of the life I had built without her deceptions. Emily's lips trembled, her voice fracturing. "Dad, please. We're remorseful. We erred." She clutched her bag, her nails digging into the material, an anxious habit I had not seen since her adolescent years. "The watch, the money, it was an error. Let us rectify it." Her eyes searched mine, frantic, but I saw the scheming beneath the hope I would yield. Ethan cleared his throat, his voice frail. "Yeah, John, we didn't intend to harm you. Things escalated." He glanced at Emily as if awaiting her guidance, his timidity as evident as ever. I remembered him at their marriage, vowing to support her, his words now vacant. I stepped onto the veranda, the wood groaning under my weight, and leaned against the banister. "An error," I uttered, my tone acute but controlled. "You spent $12,000 of my money on a watch for Robert, lied about Dr. Bills, filed a police grievance. That's not an error. That's a selection plan." My words were calculated, each one a stone in the wall I had erected against them. Emily's tears flowed, but they did not affect me. "We've lost all," she murmured, her voice breaking. "Robert's enraged. He disconnected us. Please, Dad, we need you." The confession suggested deeper defeats, her schemes with Robert's enterprise, perhaps, but she did not detail, and I did not care to inquire. I straightened, my gaze firm. "You made your selections, live with them." The words echoed my earlier determination. Now a creed. A recollection flashed. Emily at 8, pressing a marker-sketched card into my hands, her grin pure. That youngster was gone, replaced by this outsider begging for forgiveness I could not grant. Ethan shifted, murmuring, "We'll do anything." "John, just specify it." His desperation was lamentable, but it only toughened me. I shook my head, stepping back toward the entrance. "There's nothing left to utter," I declared, my voice final. The entrance's pivots groaned as I pushed it open, a symbol of the divide between us. Emily's sobs trailed me, but I did not turn. Inside. The den was quiet, the halted clock on the mantel a silent observer to my choice. I closed the entrance, the bolt clicking shut, and leaned against it, my breath steady. My phone hummed on the low table. "Laura's name lighting the display," I responded, her voice cheerful. "John, got time for a stroll meadow at midday. We need to discuss the final measure." Her words carried assurance, a hint of something greater. I glanced at the closed entrance, the veranda now empty, and felt the clock in my thoughts tick toward a future I was ready to claim. The meadow was alive with late June energy, the Boston air sweet with flowering jasmine and newly mowed turf. I walked beside Laura, the pebble trail crunching under our steps, the sun warm on my face. In my pocket, a payment from the jeweler who had purchased the Rolex. $9,700 after charges, an amount I had already resolved to donate. The burden of Emily's treachery, once a rock in my chest, had elevated, replaced by a serene freedom. Youngsters laughed on the swings, their voices a tune of potential, and I felt it too. A fresh start, hard won but mine. The clock in my thoughts ticked softly now, not tallying down, but ahead. Laura nudged my shoulder, her eyes sparkling with playfulness. "You could have acquired a sailboat with that money, John, or at least a lavish watch for yourself." Her tone was light, teasing, but her grin held pride. She had been with me through every phase financial forms. Police headquarters, the testament, and now here, her companionship a gift I had not anticipated. I chuckled, the sound effortless. "I chose tranquility instead," I uttered, patting the payment in my pocket. "Youth refuge in the city. They'll accomplish more with it than I ever could." The decision had come naturally, a way to transform Emily's treachery into something positive, Laura affirmed, her expression softening. "Excellent choice," she remarked, kicking a stone. "Though I'm hoping for a brew date next time you're feeling bountiful." Her wink drew a laugh from me, and I felt a warmth that was not just the sun, a spark, perhaps, of something more, though neither of us labeled it. We reached the pond, its surface shimmering under the midday light. I pulled out a flat rock, skipping it across the water, the waves spreading in perfect rings. A recollection surfaced, strolling here with Sarah, her hand in mine, vowing we would face the world together. I had lost her, then Emily, but now I was discovering myself. The waves faded, but their effect lingered, like the choices I had made. Earlier, I had visited the refuge's workspace, a simple area with flaking paint and sincere workers. The overseer, a lady with compassionate eyes, had accepted the payment, her thanks humbling. "This will alter lives. Mr. Harrison," she had uttered, and I had affirmed, my throat tight. The Rolex, once an emblem of treachery, had become a link to something better. Laura stopped by a seat, her gaze on the pond. "You've progressed far, you know," she remarked, her voice quieter now. "From socks to this. Not bad for a man who thought he had lost all." Her words landed gently, a reminder of the individual I had been, the one I was becoming. I sat beside her, the seat warm from the sun. Couldn't have achieved it without you, I uttered, meeting her eyes. You gave me a chance to resist. The truth was simple, but profound. She had seen my worth when I had not. A wind stirred the branches, carrying the scent of summer, and I felt Sarah's presence, her endorsement. Laura grinned, brushing a lock of hair from her face. Stay with me. John, I've got a new initiative. Neighborhood fund. Maybe could use a man with your spirit. Her offer was vague, an entrance ajar, and I liked the enigma of it, the promise of a tomorrow, unwritten. I tossed another rock, watching the waves expand. The meadow hummed with life, and I was part of it, no longer bound by Emily's deceptions or my own uncertainties. Laura rose, offering her hand, and I took it, her touch warm, steady. We walked onward, her laughter blending with the wind, and I knew whatever came next. I was prepared. The clock in my thoughts ticked softly, a rhythm of hope leading me into a life I had earned. If you enjoyed this heartfelt tale of redemption and self-discovery, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to stay connected with more inspiring stories. Share your impressions in the comments below. What moved you the most? Or drop a question so we can chat and dive deeper together. Your thoughts keep this channel alive and engaging. For the next captivating story, just click the box on the left. Thank you so much for watching and being part of this journey.